Conan to collect herself, Naruto visited schools in the poor regions of Gotham. There were many issues in society and one of them was education, and within education there were other issues. In the US, the quality of schools depended on the area they were located in. The rich neighborhood got the good schools with quality education and higher budget while the poor neighborhood got the low quality schools with small budget. It seemed that the system wanted to keep the status quo, and deliberately worked against people on the lower scale. Giving people lower resources ensured that majority of them would never move up from their current level. The schools in poor regions, meaning with people that paid less tax, had lower budget allocation. This meant that they didn't have the proper facilities and resources. Having such a system also caused irresponsible teachers to appear. This kind of problem was majority of the countries, but the rich countries didn't have an excuse for such a problem. Developing nations or underdeveloped nations didn't have the financial power to support such a system, but nations like the US could easily do so. Children were the future of the nation. When a nation wanted to continue its growth, it invested in education for the future generations and facilitated them on all levels. But it had become a money-making machine in the current world. The education system charged horrendous amounts and didn't even ensure that the student will get a job or that they are catered for properly. Having a degree meant nothing, as it could end up being just a piece of paper unless the student personally worked hard for it. The teachers in most of these institutions just did their job of giving lectures and nothing more. When students tell them that they all understood, anyone with basic logic would know that is complete bollocks. Teachers were students once and they know the tricks. Many students are childish until reality hits them hard in the face. They play around in school and college, without learning much. The problem is the result of three people: the education system, the parents and the students. Parents consider the education system the caretaker that will equip their children with everything needed, which is totally wrong and a destructive mindset. The students were not at the school the whole day, as such part of the learning process is the responsibility of the parents. The school system should be aware of such a thing and include the parents, and the society into its steps. For a proper education it needs to stop strangling curiosity and innovation in the cradle with proper steps. Students were shaped through those experiences, and if they don't question anything throughout their academic life then it was difficult for them to ever change in their adulthood. Habits were not easy to break, and most of them will end up as servants to the system. Innovators were not a result of any education system. Those children used the system's resources and found their path, or some proper teacher came into their life. The system should encourage curiosity and creativity from early ages. With just such a step the world would transform. It was easy to say such things, but Naruto understood the difficulty of application. The cost would increase and the workforce required for such a thing would need expert training and screening. Teaching was a noble job, and the world needs to start giving it the proper due. In the old days, teachers were considered something grand unlike the current times. In some nations, teaching was the job of those people that couldn't do anything else with their degrees. Teaching had fallen to such low levels, such disrespect. It was much easier to just go with the flow, and as such the world barely moved from the starting point when it came to education. The system understood, but it didn't care, as it invested when it needed pawns, and the rest were of no concern. It wasn't just the government-owned institutions, as it was also the private ones. The private ones charged huge amounts, but the services given didn't reflect the cost. They knew and they could improve, but they had no reason to. If the parents and society allowed them to continue profiting with minimal effort, then why should they say otherwise to such an easy world? Naruto understood such things as this was something basic to his studies on empire building. At the moment he couldn't fix that problem, but he was going to start his other plan. He was going to become part of politics, and for that he was going to do good deeds using his identity as George. Naruto visited the schools, talked to the teachers and students. He even took some classes where he talked about life with children in the senior classes. Once he was done with that, Naruto gave donations to the schools after having meetings with the principals. He made sure to fix up the teachers and the management before leaving. While his real body was moving around the city visiting schools, Naruto's clone finished with the Pokemon game and disappeared. Another clone activated and visited one of the big pharma corporations. These companies were giant parasites in the US along with other giant corporations. Business was good. Profit was good. Capitalism was a good system. Sadly, anything that a human touches turns to dust. Ideas were good on paper, but the human factor changes the outcome all the time. The greed of people was limitless, and sadly only the greedy rise to the highest levels. In an ideal system, companies would compete and things would be decided by supply and demand. But that was a dream. Reality didn't work that way. People at the top team up and eliminate everyone else, and control the market. When it came to pharma, it was the sad reality. The companies held on to patents and slightly adjusted them when the time came for expiration. They barely innovated but released propaganda that without money, innovation was impossible. People seemed to feed into the lies when many things came into being because of a need. The people that brought insulin to life sold the rights for nothing. But these companies sold it for an enormous amount when the cost was minimal. In their eyes, money was more important than lives, and as such, people died in droves and many more were put into debts because of medical costs. These companies had done more to stifle innovation than create it. They charged large prices for their products, citing research costs when government ends up funding the research. The cost of making the medicine doesn't change and most of the time was minimal compared to its final cost. The prices given to the customers were a result of corporate greed as the salaries and bonuses of the management continue increasing, leading to higher prices. The medicine didn't change but the prices kept on increasing. It was easy to see the reason by following the trail. It was quite unfortunate, but everything happened for monetary gains. It could happen in short terms or be a long-term plan. Pharma companies sometimes even went further by helping in the production of diseases or mutations to sell more medicines. These companies used advertisements and tricked people into buying medicine even when they didn't need them. The government knew about such practices, but they didn't care since they were all good friends. It was legal for businesses to fund politicians, and the end result would only be a surprise to the mentally challenged people. Nobody gave millions for no reason, as they would always get something in return. In the ninja world, this was also true on some level, but the ultimate control was in the hands of the shinobi. Focusing on these was necessary as businesses hired people and covered everything required for existence. Naruto didn't make a scene and met up with the CEO, tortured him for his crimes before fixing him up, got the list of people on the board of directors and met up with them, to show them the way. It was the first time Naruto had taken and without being in complete control. Just like the rest, Naruto was also watching the results. Though, he was extremely confident in every step. With that, one of the largest pharma in the world was given morals and became humane. It led to lower prices and more research as Naruto fixed their heads. Act like a bitch, and you will die like a bitch. Naruto didn't stop there and fix the rest, even though he did want to see a fight with large corporations. It was a waste of resources and time, so he got them on track to fix up problems instead of swimming in an untold amount of dirty cash. Profit was good, but when it led to human suffering, then it was wrong and questions should be raised. The thing about administration's costs rising leading to higher product cost was also a problem in hospitals. Health should be a human right. Living in a society, one shouldn't worry about dying on the road and getting no help because he couldn't pay for the medicine. Such a society was accursed and heartless, and it went against the reason why humanity gathered together. There were things that a human being needed to live, and a proper system should cover those needs in an efficient manner. Beyond that were wants, and those were up to the people. But it seems corporations were intent on redefining what was a human right, and it wouldn't be strange to hear air becoming a product since some corporations don't consider clean drinking water a human right. Nonetheless, Naruto wasn't going to force them to treat patients for free since the costs had to be covered in a way. The government wasn't going to cover them for now. Most of it was already inefficient and pointless to Naruto, but he had to play along for the moment. Once things were settled, majority of the minor diseases would disappear from the world. For now, Naruto just needed the hospitals to lower their prices to an appropriate level. It was an easy process after having a nice talk with the management. The people listened to his kind words and quickly got to work to make the world a better place. The pharma, other medical equipment suppliers and the hospitals were covered, leading to a large change. With Naruto's words, none of them dared to hesitate or delay anything. Everything was done post-haste. Once that was done, Naruto's clone exploded and released an energy wave that covered the whole city within a second. It cleared the pollution and brightened up the hearts of the people, healing them from all kinds of physical and mental illnesses. Naruto was unfortunately not an expert at healing physical diseases, but his energy gave the people stronger immunity to fight the problem. While Naruto was dealing with his things, Moon Maiden's nemesis was in full gear. The Centurion was a large man with a buff body and an intelligent mind. He had been fighting to take over the world for centuries, but all plans had failed. Even the device given to him by Darkseid was gone. It seems the device had limitation on what it could erase, so strong beings on his level could come back eventually. Getting back, he was extremely angry and wished to indulge in extreme violence. But the logical side of the brain stopped him in time and he held it back. Using his powers to control souls and make them his slaves, Centurion gathered data and understood the changes. Things had become worse for him and he contemplated for a time on ways to succeed. For the first time in his existence, Centurion decided to work with others. He made contact with the light and they gave him an assignment to complete before he could join. It angered him, but he endured and went about gathering up souls to serve him. This time he decided to gather powerful souls instead of wasting energy on combining souls to make a powerful abomination. Many powerful beings had died on the planet. He just needed to find their corpses to summon the soul into submission. With that plan in mind, he found the Green Lantern Abin Sur, Giovanni Zatara, Zatanna's father, Ace Masterson, Angelica Smith, and Angan. Along with these, he even managed to locate powerful dark spirits hiding in the human world. Kayako, also known as the Grudge, had escaped from Japan after a battle and was hiding in one of the ghost towns. Sadako, the ghost that gave 7 days after watching a video, was also located and subdued once he got information about her from the light. There were 2 other powerful ghosts, Alessa in Silent Hill and Ienma in Japan. He was given data to grow his powers as he needed all he could get. His task was to kill Batman and Aquaman. With Batman dead, the JL would lose its strategist, while Aquaman's death would lead to a chance that Atlantis might fight the surface world. Ignoring the ghost living in Japan, Centurion flew towards Silent Hill with his army of souls. Just you wait, Moon Maiden, as your life will be a living hell. That is a promise that I intend to keep with all seriousness. Silent Hill was in West Virginia, not too far for Centurion. Using his powers, he could become invisible and avoided any kind of detection. After getting into a fight with the JL last time, he had become very cautious. Another reason for his cautious behavior was the emergence of the Emperor. He had never heard of such a being in his life and didn't believe a word that was uttered by the creature. Nonetheless, he was careful since the man was handling the JL lightly. Playing around with Superman wasn't child's play. Landing inside the ghost town, Centurion found the place abandoned with no life in it. But he already knew about that and he could feel the spiritual wave. The giant man wearing red and gold armor started walking casually on the streets. He wanted to see if the spirit would appear. "Come out, Alessa, or I might have to destroy this place," Valkus muttered in a commanding tone as his feet left imprints on the road. He wasn't there to recruit, as he was there to make her submit. It didn't take long for the world to be enshrouded in fog as ashes rained down, and a little girl with long black hair and pale skin stood in front of him. Alessa, also known as Dark Alessa, stood in front of Valkus wearing a purple dress. She was the dark part of Alessa formed from her suffering. "Good, now come along, little lady, before I get violent." Valkus smiled as he stepped forward to catch her tiny little form while releasing his spiritual aura to suppress her form. Alessa looked at him with a dull expression. She could feel his spiritual power and the ghosts around him. It wasn't the first time someone had tried to make her submit. She was waiting for her good part to return, and these things were an annoyance. Stepping back, the world started to shift again. Reality seems to peel away, releasing a nightmare realm. Silent Hill was the town that had become Alessa's territory, and it was a place with 3 realms: the normal world, the fog world, and the nightmare realm. Valkus increased his pace to catch the little brat while fully unleashing his presence, but she disappeared and he was forced to dodge a slash from a giant cleaver. Standing on his side was a man of similar size wearing a giant triangular metal mask. It was Pyramid Head, one of Alessa's guards. He represented the faceless guardian that protected Alessa from harm. And he wasn't alone. There were 2 figures that took shape from Valkus, representing his fears and trauma. One was similar size to Pyramid Head, and he had a large buff body and wore a cloth bag on his head while spikes covered his head. He wore simple white clothes and over them he wore dark leather armor. In his hand was an oversized battle axe that also served as a hammer, and there was a chain connected to the hammer section. It represented his fear of being executed for treason. It was a figure that had haunted him from a young age, as he had watched people get beheaded. The other one was huge, and with size it also represented his biggest fear: the Yellow Emperor. It was a huge figure that stood 2 stories tall and had tentacles instead of legs. Its face was covered by a white mask and its eyes were a deep pool of darkness. It was a dark-skinned figure wearing a yellow robe and a golden medallion along with a floating golden crown. Its hands were large and pointy while more tentacles came out of the arms section of the robe, and even its abdomen. The figure represented his fear of being ruled by another, a higher force that makes him feel powerless. It represented his deepest fears of futility and weakness. The tentacles were the limbs that extended forth to control its subjects. Valkus thought he had never experienced fear. but at the moment he could feel his heart beating fast. Alessa had awakened his fear, and the presence of the two creatures caused him to remember the horrible past. Fucking whore! Valkas roared as his ghost army was summoned. Everyone that had died serving him was summoned along with his new slaves. Thousands of soldiers on horses rushed at the nightmares while he scanned the area. Find the maggot, now! Valkas turned to Sadako along with Kayako and growled his order while quickly dodging the Yellow Emperor. Sadako had space manipulation skills while Kayako went further as she could mark people and follow them. The two ghost women were forced by the collar on their necks to follow the command. Sadako connected to all the televisions in the town and found a target. Emerging from the TV, she was forced back in by Dark Alessa and confined into the digital realm. Kayako was also about to start working, but Valkas put a stop to it. Stop, just help me with this abomination. Valkas commanded as he lost connection with Sadako. Angan was a giant monster that stood 5 meters tall. It could shift its red blood-like body any way it wanted and could poison people. It fought against Pyramid Head while Angelica and Ace fought against the Executioner. Angelica was part of the Terror Titans gathered by the Clock King to fight against the Teen Titans. She was killed by the man. She was a woman that hated other women. Regardless, she was a powerful being with the power to disrupt gravity and negate kinetic energy. Following that, she also had energy projection. While Ace Masterson was an old man called the Human Dynamo. He wasn't a villain but a man that wished to be a crime fighter, so he ended up experimenting on his body. He was transformed into a living battery capable of absorbing and manipulating electromagnetic radiation. He got his dream but realized that he had dementia and could become a threat, so he hired Deathstroke to assassinate him, giving him a warrior's death. The two were stuck fighting his nightmares while the rest fought against his biggest fear. Abin Sur was an alien being that protected the Earth region as a Green Lantern before Hal Jordan became the Green Lantern when he died. Zatara was Zatanna's father who had died in the line of duty, fighting against the darkness. He had said his farewells to his daughter, but his death was also the reason for Zatanna and John Constantine's breakup. John was the only one to survive the battle and some other people handled the problem with the darkness. Regardless, Zatara was an exceptional magician, but now he was stuck into servitude. Everyone was focused on the giant monster and avoiding its tentacles. The Yellow Emperor could dominate the mind by coiling its targets, and its body was hard to harm. To make things worse, it could heal instantly. Valkas couldn't calm his heart around the monster and flew around the battlefield avoiding its touch. He could feel it smiling at him, looking down on him. Vanish! Valkas screamed as he unleashed a beam of light. Just like Moon Maiden, Valkas also got powers from the same source. Valkas could get power from the sun, though it wasn't like Superman. He could just manipulate light for attacks, not grow stronger from it. YE extended its hand and a dark barrier appeared, blocking his attack. At the same time, the others attacked. Sur used his lantern powers, though they had been weakened without the real ring. Creating a beam cannon, he blasted the target. Zatara spoke his spells and unleashed fireballs while also creating ethereal chains to catch their target. Finally, Kayako used her space manipulation to appear inside the robe of the YE. She tried to take him into her dark realm. But, all of it was futile. YE was his biggest fear and it was feeding on his terror along with Alessa's powers. She was happy with YE and decided to keep him. YE smiled as he blocked Sur's attack with the other hand. His tentacles destroyed all of Zatara's attacks and pierced through him. His head turned around and stared into Kayako's eyes. Kayako was a human woman that had been killed by her husband. The current form was the grudge left behind in the moment of her death, along with all the dark spirits her human form had consumed before death, and the continuous consumptions of souls after that. Any other person staring into her eyes would experience a heart attack before getting their soul devoured. YE smiled before more tentacles appeared from its mouth that coiled around Kayako, trying to drag her inside. It became a fight of who could eat first. Converge, my loyal slaves, let us become one. Valkas announced as he saw that they weren't making a dent on the thing. He needed to calm down, so he had all the loyal soldiers gather inside of him. With those spirits, he felt calm and could think clearly. He was covered up in ethereal armor and carried a long lance along with a shield, riding an ethereal horse. Gathering all of them, he saved Kayako from getting devoured while also getting all their abilities in one body. He left the others to engage the minor distractions and fought against YE. With a command, ethereal chains appeared from the ground and the air to trap his foe. Finish him, Alessa commanded, and YE raised his hand to the sky. In his hand appeared a sword. Valkas didn't stop his attack, and threw his lance after focusing his powers on it. It was an attack that should destroy all his obstacles, but it disappeared with the slash from YE. Velkus quickly retreated to avoid the attack, but chains coiled around his legs. Looking back, he realized that Pyramid Head was the only one on the battlefield at the back. He had devoured the executioner along with his slaves, taking on their qualities. The enemy dragged him down and slashed down with his giant blade. Velkus blocked the attack with his shield. The impact caused him to get smashed into the street, causing a crater to form. The short fight had destroyed the whole area, but it mattered to none. Seeing the two nightmares walk towards him, Velkus roared in frustration and pushed through the nightmare realm to escape Silent Hill. Dark Alessa wanted to take him out, but Alessa was tired and needed to rest. He was lucky and escaped to the real world. Looking down on the accursed town, Velkus shivered before escaping. He hated Alessa and he hated the light for their betrayal. They had not told him everything and he was not told to expect such level of power. You worms will pay for this sacrilege. Velkus took an oath as he retreated to heal up from the battle. He had lost much and almost got corrupted by Alessa. Just as Velkus concluded, the light hadn't planned to take him in. They were just using him to test Ianma and Alessa. Their target had been these two ladies. Velkus was an old villain and the light had no desire to keep such traitorous scum within their group. Velkus had killed his emperor when he got his powers and backstabbed everyone that had worked with him. His loyalty was in the negative. He was a poisonous snake that couldn't be trusted. None of the members were blind to his desire of dominating the group. He was strong, but the two ladies were stronger. The light wanted to check their powers and see what they could do to convince them. Alessa seemed to hate humanity as a whole, and that needed to be fixed or she would need to die. The light worked towards making humanity becoming a dominant force in the universe. Though, their means were immoral and they didn't really care for the citizens. Getting back to Silent Hill, Naruto walked into the town. One of his clones had sensed an invisible figure moving and followed. Naruto followed and saw that it was Centurion, so he decided to focus on him. The man was powerful and would be troublesome for him. Naruto decided to inform the JL about the foe and let them handle him. It was unfortunate for Velkus, but his battle didn't end with leaving Silent Hill. It just started another round, as he was faced with Moon Maiden, Hawkgirl, and Martian Manhunter. Naruto walked around but was unable to enter to the Fog Realm or the Nightmare Realm. His power over space wasn't good enough to open portals to other realms and Alessa didn't want him to enter. Naruto had no fears, so the Nightmare Realm would have a low impact on him and she didn't want to fight pointless battles. I know you are there, and I will come back for you. Don't lose hope and never walk the wrong path. The world is filled with the good and bad. Don't drown in the darkness for the select few that's surrounding your innocent existence. Alessa, Naruto muttered as he disappeared. He got the name and data from Gia. She seemed to help him lightly at different points, and he had yet to know her goal. She wanted him to kill the Olympians, cleanse the planet, or just watch him perform. He didn't know for sure, but he didn't mind using her for his benefit, and one day she would submit like the rest. Naruto left Silent Hill and started one of his other plans. He wanted to have another public appearance that was totally different from his real form. It would be something that was acceptable by the current JL, as he wished to interact with these people in a positive manner. His real persona would also continue to exist along with these new personas that came into existence from the Marvel Comics. It wasn't something new for Naruto since his teachers had made him make clones that took other appearances and even acted in that manner completely. It helped him learn different fighting styles and personalities. So, he decided to continue such a thing in the current world. Naruto changed his armor to gold and revealed his true looks inside while taking the name Gilgamesh. Alongside there were 4 more clones but with the Marvel character's appearance. All the clones were using true transformation, so none of them could be traced to his real body, even if the main clone had his real appearance. Flying beside him were Thor, Hulk, Human Torch, and Magneto. Thor had the power of lightning and wind. Human Torch had fire, Hulk had super strength, and Magneto focused on magnetic style. Naruto knew countless techniques, so it wasn't rare for him to use most of his techniques. Getting back to the scene, Naruto flew with his team towards the location where he could sense Velkus. The plan was thought out, but only implementation would tell whether it was working or not. While Naruto had left the Centurion, he had become engaged in combat with the JL. Centurion had combined all his remaining power inside his body to escape Silent Hill and lost some of his servants. He was weakened in a way and used half of his energy to escape, so he was not in good shape. Regardless, he had no choice but to fight because Martian Manhunter had attacked his mind and almost dropped him from the sky. However, Centurion could operate his body in a different manner and avoided such a future. His mental barriers were strong, But was better. So, his spiritual abilities saved him. He operated using his soul while the body became a puppet, allowing him to avoid M's mind powers. Centurion avoided that attack but got hit by Hawkgirl's mace along with Moon Maiden's lunar blade. It was a direct hit to his chest and the impact sent him crashing into the greenery below. Both weapons were exceptional, especially Hawkgirl's mace. It was made from NTH metal, which was one of the strongest metals in the universe and had multitudes of abilities. It allowed physical interaction with as well as disrupt the presence of ghostly entities, magic creatures, and even break enchantments. It negated gravity. It allowed self-sustenance. It could change shape into anything and it enhanced the power of the user. It even had the power to manipulate reality and time, and allow the user to reincarnate. It was the ideal material for a weapon or armor. With such a weapon, Centurion had his defenses negated and got damaged. The impact with the ground didn't do a thing except cause a crater and damage the surroundings. It was once again apparent that superhuman fights were dangerous for the planet and the government had some valid fears. It also showed the heroes and government's lack of planning for such fights. It was just a matter of time that the planet faced destruction because of collateral damage. Getting back to the fight, Centurion howled and released a ghastly scream that pushed back his foes while impacting their souls. Moon Maiden acted fast and put up a lunar barrier that blocked the move, but it got through and Hawkgirl smashed it with her mace. The attack would have worked if not for the mace. Nonetheless, it was just a simple move and Centurion continued with another move. Utilizing the space manipulation from Kayako, Centurion unleashed beams from his hands to the sides and the beams hit his foes instantly. The attacks appeared too close to their bodies for them to dodge and they appeared from their back. The beam contained concentrated spiritual energy that heavily affected while Moon Maiden and Hawkgirl only had to endure the forceful impact that sent them flying into the distance. Moon Maiden had been able to shine with moonlight before the impact and reduce the effect or she would have been taken out. Regardless, she was heavily damaged and focused on healing and giving support with her gravity manipulation. Hawkgirl was more durable and quickly flew towards Centurion again while her body healed from the damage. Was angered, which was rare since he was a gentle soul. But, it happened because the impact caused him to remember his darkest thoughts. It brought back nightmares. Had been taking the fight lightly but now he got serious. However, Centurion was about to escape using Kayako's abilities when things went haywire again. Naruto arrived with his team and created a golden barrier around the battlefield. It also blocked Kayako's spatial ability for a moment that Thor was able to strike him with his lightning blast. Naruto was using his full power with Sage Mode, so the lightning moved 10 times faster than the normal lightning and struck with such power that Centurion would have drilled into the core. However, Naruto caused the ground to become strong and there was barely any damage to it. This caused the damage done to Centurion to increase when his body was hit by Hulk's hammer smash that followed. Hulk was the persona that was utilizing Tsunade's fighting style along with Might Guy's and Choji's. The strength of all three was combined in Hulk. The butterfly mode combined with Tsunade's power style was the main thing while the 8 gates were work in progress. Naruto was trying to combine all his power-up abilities, but the 8 gates caused the other techniques to be negated as he was unable to control the wild chakra rush. Regardless of the 8 gates, Hulk's power was enormous and was good enough to smash a mountain to pieces. That power was clearly felt by Centurion as his injured body was further damaged. His appearance was disheveled, his bones were fractured and he was bleeding. Looking around, he knew he was defeated. There were too many enemies and he was not at full power. But, it seems his luck wasn't all that bad as all his foes were shot by someone and he was pulled out of the battlefield. Just 5 km away from the battlefield, Deathstroke stood with his new look. He was wearing an advanced combat suit and held a large rifle that shot lasers while 6 other laser shooters floated around him. He had appeared silently and shot the heroes from afar with his new equipment made by the light. The weapon shot faster than the speed of light utilizing space technology and the power was beyond the reaches of a nuclear bomb. The weapon's power was still in development stage or the heroes would have been past news. With his task done, Deathstroke disappeared from the area as his suit was equipped with teleportation functions. Even with Naruto's involvement, the battle had gone completely differently and it was fortunate that he hadn't appeared with his Emperor persona or the failure would have weakened his image considerably. Getting back to the heroes, the sudden attack had been too fast for all of them except could have phased through the laser but instead blocked it with his hand without getting damaged. Moon Maiden and Hawkgirl were slightly hurt by the attack because of their equipment's special abilities while Naruto's clones were durable enough to walk through the attack. Naruto had sensed the attack and his body could have teleported instantly because of his connection with nature through Sage Mode, but he had turned off that function for these clones. Because of that, the clones were unable to react and were hit squarely in the back. Regardless, the clones were durable enough to handle the power of a city destroyer or a mountain eraser and were only pushed aside by the sudden impact. Naruto's other clone had watched the battle from afar and took note of Deathstroke so that he wouldn't have to experience the same failure again. It wasn't his first failure, but repetition was not allowed. He had made the blunder of looking down on a low-level power signal, forgetting that highly advanced weaponry allowed them to harm him. Nonetheless, it didn't damage his pride as it had already been shaken by the knowledge from the people and he had adjusted. The fact that he wasn't even top 10 on the planet was a big blow to his pride, and it was fortunate that he knew how to manage his ego, and wasn't driven by it. Naruto was once again impressed by the new world and the technology. He was looking forward to his team's progress in the field. With everyone done catching their breath, all of them came to an understanding that the enemy had disappeared and they focused on each other. Naruto's team had helped them, but all of them were unknown. Took the lead and let the girls heal from their injuries. He looked at the 4 individuals and recorded the data with the lenses in his eyes. It was done by Batman to make it easy for them to collect data on every enemy they fought, as verbal accounts and memory were not very reliable, especially when one wasn't good at description. "Thank you for your assistance." Approached them and talked in a calm manner as usual. His tone was mostly neutral, but the inside was extremely warm. "Gilgamesh. My name is Gilgamesh. No need for thanks, it is our duty to help each other out." Gilgamesh was the clone with original appearance and golden armor. His tone also matched Naruto's original tone without the additional effects in the sound. "As he, my friend, said, we were happy to be finally of use." Thor added in a jovial tone that was like Lee and current Naruto's fusion. While Magneto was silent and cautious like Satsuki, Hulk was just a battle-driven junkie showing disinterest in talking, and Human Torch was acting like a chill modern guy. From their appearance all of them looked friendly, but knew to never go on such a thing. "What do you mean by that?" asked, and he very much wanted to read the people freely. He controlled himself because people felt violated, but the continuous problems over the years had been pushing his buttons. And he had started reading people's surface thoughts. He didn't go deep unless needed. With his preliminary search, he didn't find negative indication. "We have been training with our powers for a while and wanted to help out soon." Gilgamesh replied honestly and clearly. It was the truth according to the script Naruto had written. The clones only had fake memories and they were connected to real people working in one of the places Naruto had visited. He had taken control of 5 individuals and shaped their memories to match the clones to cover everything properly, or it would allow others to find out the game. Naruto controlled all 5 clones remotely with his parallel mind skill to avoid the problem of detection. "Yeah, we have been training in remote places like Z Warriors. It was horrendous. Please save us from this lunatic." Human Torch put his arms around Thor and acted dramatically. Finally got the picture. The team was made of metahumans that had awakened some ability. "Thank you for answering my query, and I hope to see you all become the guardians of this beautiful world. I wish we could have a longer conversation, but for now we have some prior arrangements." Reminded them to keep on the right path, as he couldn't just take them and read them like a book or register them with the JL. There was no proper system to take care of superhumans, and letting the government know about them was asking for trouble, since it wouldn't be beneath them to capture and experiment. The government's suspicious nature had made sure that all superhumans would avoid it like the plague and wouldn't work for it unless there were special circumstances. "No problem, we will definitely be seeing each other." Gilgamesh shook hands with "Can I have your number?" Human Torch on the other hand approached Hawkgirl for her number. Hawkgirl looked him up and shook her head. "Not my type. You look too soft. I don't like playboys." Hawkgirl responded to his flirting and brushed him off. It was a new experience in the field, but that didn't change her opinion. With that, the JL team vanished from the field through the usage of the Watchtower's spatial functions. Naruto's team also departed from the area, but in a normal manner, as he believed that the tower might have zoomed onto them. While the heroes dispersed, Centurion appeared in a place far from the battlefield. He appeared on an uninhabited island and was greeted by Deathstroke. The island was barren and looked haunted with a dark atmosphere. It was covered in fog and there were blood stains in places. Both warriors didn't care about the aesthetics and focused on each other. Centurion glared at the man that had saved him. He wasn't grateful and only held suspicion. "Stop glaring or I will pop those eyeballs. Valkus, you have failed to show us your importance. We gave you information to help you grow in power, but you were defeated so easily without a single accomplishment." Those powers are wasted on you. Deathstroke talked down on him and went for the harshest tone. They had saved Centurion to test his capabilities to the maximum before taking them out. The Light had managed to find a way to transfer powers from one individual to another and even further enhance those innate powers with genetic modification. They intended to create the ultimate form of humanity and enhance the chosen ones because the current humanity could never compare to the top species in the universe. It was their weak physiology that limited their future, and the Light was intent on erasing that defect. How dare you? You filthy mongrel, I will lost because of your incomplete information. Centurion was lit with rage and jumped towards Deathstroke, but only found a barrier stopping his approach. Incomplete information, did I just heart that? Valkus, you are truly incompetent beyond belief. How did you ever manage to delude yourself in believing that you were capable of ruling over people? Your level of incompetence is truly astonishing. Did you not even think for a moment and test the unknown entity instead of barging in like a buffoon? You failed the test at the moment, but we have decided to give you another chance. Deathstroke stroked his rage to the point of insanity, touching his pride. He pushed Centurion into the ground with the gravity device and placed his sword to his face. One last chance, Valkus. We will not save you again. You see this island? It is filled with millions of souls blinded with rage. Take them and dispose of at least one member of the Justice League. Deathstroke gave Centurion a cut on his face and left him alone. Centurion roared in rage at the humiliation and smashed the ground with his fist, causing the small island to shake and almost collapse. All of you will pay for this degradation. Centurion stood up as he muttered those words in a guttural tone before focusing on the souls. He was going to make the best use of the resources. Found you. An ominous voice entered his ears while a large hand captured his head. The large hand's owner was Naruto, and he had found Centurion very easily because the man's life signal had been registered, and there was a Hiraishin, teleportation, seal on his body. Naruto's clone had made sure to mark Centurion in the case that the criminal escaped his grasp. Looking at the situation, Centurion was ripe for the picking. Naruto's clone contained 50% of his chakra, and he was using Sage Mode at full capacity. With the new knowledge taken from the people, he had managed to find a path to power where his current foe was a child in front of him. He had found a way that boosted his powers immensely to the point that Naruto was ready to go back and slap Madara around like a child. Though, that was the ideal situation, and Naruto expected a genius like Madara to have already come to the same discovery. Naruto had come to realize that he had been blind to something very close. He had never questioned or tried to change the way of body enhancement. Learning about nuclear bombs and such, he realized that he could have started at home instead of finding bigger things to learn. He understood that even something small could achieve great power, and it fundamentally changed his approach to everything about growth. Naruto tested and rebuilt body enhancement from the ground to a new level. He even went far enough to make multiple levels for future generations. Body enhancement was a basic skill known by every shinobi, and it was a skill that boosted the physical abilities of the body with the usage of chakra. The extent of the boost depended on the chakra amount, chakra control, and chakra quality. However, this skill only covered the body on the surface level and didn't go deep. Naruto understood his blunder and corrected it. He went deeper than the normal skill and covered the individual cells with his chakra, meaning he enhanced his body from a cellular stage. It heavily boosted his power that his previous level became fragile in his gaze. There were more than 37 trillion cells in his body, so the energy requirement was heavy, but the power-up was also similarly high. After that, Naruto went deeper to the molecular stage, and there were more than 40 million molecules per cell in his body. The enhancement was extremely heavy on chakra, but the result made him ascend to a level of power that was beyond his dreams. It was easy to achieve such a result only because of his regeneration ability, or he would have died before achieving the cellular level. Controlling chakra to a molecular scale was extremely taxing and difficult. It tested Naruto's skill and patience. There were more levels to build, as a molecule wasn't the smallest particle. There were atoms. There were electrons, neutrons, and protons. Further deeper would be the quarks, and then would be the preons. Each stage would completely transform Naruto and make the previous level look like a ring in the Sahara Desert. However, that was far off, as Naruto's chakra control was lacking for such success, and he was even unable to operate in a fight while using the molecular stage. He could only rely on the cellular stage. Nonetheless, it was more than enough. The cellular stage had pushed Naruto's physical power from a city destroyer to moon destroyer instantly, and this stage was still under work. It was still not fully optimized, as the real cellular stage would put him squarely on a planetary level or above. QB, nine-tail fox, was made from the Juubi, 10-tail beast, which was formed from half of the planet's energy. Kyuubi was half of the Juubi, but that was the normal version, and Super Kyuubi was equal to the Juubi. Meaning, Kyuubi had half a planet worth of energy and Naruto was 14 of that in chakra reserves. The level of energy contained in Naruto's body was immense, but he had always lacked the techniques to fully utilize such energy, and now he had found the way. The stages of power didn't just change his body, as it also changed all his techniques. It made all his skills skyrocket in power, since Naruto was building them up from a microscopic stage, meaning that a single basketball-sized fireball could contain power beyond his strongest attack. Naruto wasn't just powering up himself by a single point anymore, but divided his chakra into the trillions of cells for a powerful synergic effect, and using it with Sage Mode meant that his base would be enhanced, his cells would adapt and change. This in turn would continue his growth. Getting back to the situation, Centurion was unable to react after hearing the voice and found himself smashed into the ground. The impact was so strong and fast that he almost died. Naruto had moved too fast, surpassing light speed, and the ground beneath them had also been enhanced on cellular stage, or the island would have been destroyed from the impact. With his damaged body, Centurion was unable to put up a resistance and had his bones broken. He was barely conscious as he tried to speak through his broken windpipe. Naruto brought him up while holding him by the head and finally let Centurion see his features. Looking at Naruto's armored form, Centurion shook with fear as he recognized the person and understood the danger. Naruto smiled at the result of his training and looked forward to perfecting it. With this power, he now had a proper fighting chance in the current world. Feeling happy, Naruto started the usual process and read his foe's mind. Centurion had the strongest mental defense, but after the beating, his ability was lowered while Naruto's abilities had been enhanced by his discovery. Even the mental skills were changed to follow his new path, and it made it possible to break Centurion. Naruto saw his history and understood him completely. Centurion was a person of the Roman Empire who had continued to live till the modern times with the aim to rule the world. But, at all times there had been powers that made the goal impossible. The man was cowardly and arrogant, but he was persistent and never gave up on his goal. His powers were also very interesting. He could manipulate spirits and possessed a very strong physique that was better than Naruto's base strength. Naruto could use such people to improve his base strength and mutate his genetic structure. Centurion would also be a strong servant. However, all that depended on the man. His persistence might lead to his final destination. Valkus, how does it feel? This is how your victims felt. Naruto muttered as he made Valkus look him in the eyes. It was the first time the giant man felt tiny in front of someone. He felt fragile and weak in front of the emperor. Such physique, such strong spirit was beyond his level. No, that was not true. He had been taken by surprise. He could have won if he had just 30 minutes. Valkus glared back and tried to talk back defiantly while fighting against the terror-inducing aura. Naruto allowed it as he wanted Valkus to fight him, to break him completely and destroy his excuses. Oh, you think you can win? Valkus, do you really believe that you are superior to the combined will of humanity? Truly detestable. Your level of intelligence is truly detestable. Naruto let Valkus fall to the ground like a dead fish and walked around him. Naruto stopped and stepped on his back. However, I will let you struggle. Show me your futile efforts, Valkus. With those words, Valkus felt his body heal instantly and his energy was refilled. His Regan ability was slow and was weakened by the fog, so Naruto's assistance was appreciated. I will crush you like a bug for this assistance. Valkus growled with renewed vigor as he crawled to his feet and looked back at his foe. Naruto was carefree and his tone carried that image. Valkus, go along and play before I drag you down to hell. Valkus was sent flying with flick of his hand and had to stop himself from flying off the island. Normally he would have tried to escape, but he had lost too many times and couldn't endure any further humiliation. He had the chance to grow in power and escape wasn't guaranteed. Letting his foe bask in his arrogance, Valkus focused on his task and made the spirits his servants. He absorbed all of them and combined them into 10 super spirits. He fed one super spirit to Kayako, one to Zatara and one to Abansor to power up these powerful spirits, allowing them to reach a new level of power or regain some of their original level of power. Valkus combined all the spirits into his body to face Naruto and he experienced a heavy power-up. He was sure that his foe would beg for mercy. He was sure that he could make Superman kneel. I hope you are done preparing, Valkus. I am a very busy person, so think of it as an honor that you got such a deadline. Naruto had meditated for 30 minutes while Valkus prepared. meaning Naruto was even stronger than when he had arrived. Humph, your arrogance has made you blind. Can't you see the difference between our power? You will kneel and beg before your slow demise. Velka spoke confidently with a smirk on his face as he walked towards Naruto with a slim ethereal blade. Naruto chuckled at his hubris. It was truly amusing. You have a gift for theatrics. Maybe you should have applied for it instead. Naruto smiled as he blocked the soul blade with his hand and crushed it. Velkus went from arrogant to being terrified within a single moment, and he found a hand shoved through him. Rasen Shuriken. Naruto used his wind manipulation to create tiny wind blades that attacked all of the cells inside of Velkus' body while keeping him conscious. The man felt the pain of being ripped apart and not dying as Naruto also kept on healing him. It went on for a minute. Now, do you see the difference between then and now? I am sure you have realized your mistake, and realized that there was never a competition. You are just a bug that can be crushed anytime. Naruto sat down on a throne made of earth while Velkus found himself chained to a pillar. Velkus could only hear those words in silence as he was terrified of speaking. His fear of the emperor had been awakened once again at full force. He had been tortured during the time of the Roman Empire by his emperor, and it had put a deep fear into him that never disappeared because he didn't defeat the source. Naruto was much worse than his source of fear and gave him an enhanced terror. Velkus had lost without any resistance, and there was no doubt about it. Good, now you are thinking right. Velkus, you don't have to stop dreaming. I can make you the ruler of an empire. It won't be a small one, but one bigger than your imagination. I intend for humanity to spread across the universe, and I will give the talented individuals sectors to manage, a sector being a solar system. How does that sound? Isn't it mouth-watering? Naruto shared his dream with Velkus. It was just something he had only recently thought about, but it was the likely path for his journey. Velkus blinked and took in the image. It was much more than what he had desired. He wanted a planet, and he was getting a solar system, even though it was normal for him to die at the moment. I will do it. Naruto already knew the answer, and it was made easier by the fact that he knew the object of their greed. Getting up from his seat, Naruto's hand covered the servant's head. That's good, but now you have to suffer the punishment for your actions, Naruto said as he started the punishment and took Velkus away from the island. With their departure, the island collapsed into dust because of Naruto's new powers that were still in the experimental stage. And guys, this is the end. Hope you enjoyed. See you next time.